Okay, Mr. Chair, we're ready to go.
Thank you. Number 17, 8 Humbercrest Boulevard. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear two-story addition, a full second-story addition, and a partial third-story addition. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, comments from Heritage Preservation Services, Ravenna Natural Feature Protection, and a report from Heritage Preservation Services. Mr. Romano?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Franco Romano, Action Planning, 2095 Autumn Breeze, Port Credit.
All right, thank you, sir. It doesn't look like we're going to need a presentation from you. Do you have any comment to make before we take it into committee?
Just two things, sir. Number one is that the third floor addition here is basically mechanical space within the roof line. And number two is I just want to make sure that the archaeological discussion from Heritage Preservation Services confirms that they no longer require an archaeological study, because they had two communications. They had an initial email, and then they had a subsequent email confirming, and I think this is the email that's up on the screen right now. So subject to any questions, sir, it's my opinion that the application satisfies all 4 tests for a minor variance and creates no unacceptable adverse impact.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? All right, do we have a motion? Larry?
Sure, I'm happy to kick it off. This area is an area that's characterized by large lots, large homes, that a lot of renovation has happened. I'm almost surprised that they found the last existing bungalow in that area. It's very much in keeping with, I think, the type of redevelopment that's happening in that area, and I don't think it would pose any negative impact on any of the adjacent or surrounding neighborhoods. So I'm happy to bring forward a motion to approve this with the conditions.
Thank you. Seconder, Sahir. All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 18, 111 Southwood Drive. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing a 3rd-story addition above the existing 2nd story. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, 18 form letters in support, opposition from 101 Southwood Drive. Mr. Mastrandrea.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Can we have your address, please?
It's 817 Cosburn Ave.
Okay, thank you. We're going to need a presentation as we have some opposition.
Yes, so we have submitted 18 letters of support, including the adjacent neighbors. We have support from community planning. We have submitted supporting material, including photos and prior decisions. I hope you had time to take a look at those.
Yeah.
I believe this application is consistent with the built form as well as the what's been approved at the Committee of Adjustment. I also feel that this does meet all 4 tests of the Planning Act, and I humbly request approval of this application. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, panel, any questions? No questions? All right, let's go to Mr. Dunleavy.
Hello?
Mr. Dunleavy? Hello? What happened?
Hi, Patrick. You might have muted yourself.
Okay, let me try again.
Oh,
We can hear you. then he did it again.
Just have a comment rather than objection,
Oh.
is that this house is right across
Yeah,
the street.
So,
from
Mr.
the-
Dunleavy, before you make your comment, could we please have your full name and your address for the record?
Okay, Patrick Dunleavy, Dunleavy, 2 Glen Stewart Avenue.
Thank you. So, let us have your comment
across-
now.
Okay, I'm right across the street from the house, and the house is kind of on a high ground. It's already higher than my house anyway right now, and I'm just worried that it's going to be a bit of an eyesore in the neighborhood with another floor on top of it, and it certainly will be out of sync with the rest of the street. That's
I-
all.
How many stories do the rest of the houses on the street have?
2.
Okay, panel, any questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Dunleavy. Mr. Mastrandrea?
Yes, if you look at the photos, page 1 through 10, you can see that there are 3-story dwellings in the immediate area on the street, and the variances are also consistent with what's been approved. All the research we did was in 500 meters of the subject property. Most of them are on Southwood and Glen Stewart.
Thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? All right, so do we have comments or a motion?
I don't mind starting off. I think this is a reasonable application, and I agree that there aren't, as the neighbor mentioned, there aren't a ton of 3-story houses, but it is an area in transition, and it's a very short block from Kingston Road that has mid-rise buildings right within eyesight. So I think it's an appropriate evolution of the neighborhood, and I think it's being done sensitively, remaining within the existing footprint and just adding 1 story popping up. And I think because it's being done like that, I can see no negative impacts on the neighbors. So I move to approve the application with no conditions.
Larry, you seconded. All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 19, 270 Queensdale Avenue. Purpose of the application is to alter the existing 1.5-story detached dwelling by constructing a 2nd-story addition and a rear basement walkout. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, opposition from properties on Queensdale and one on Glebe Mount, and in addition to a 40-signature petition in opposition. Amar Robah,
Hi, good afternoon.
good afternoon. Can we have your name and your address, please?
I'm a robot, 250 Shield Court, Markham.
Okay, could you give us a presentation? We have some opposition.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, but we're having a little hard time hearing you too, so perhaps you could speak into the microphone?
Yes.
Thank you.
So, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the application we have here, it's for 270 Queensdale Avenue. We're converting an existing one floor single family dwelling, a 2-story single family dwelling by adding a second floor and extension to the second floor in the second floor only. During the design process, we ensure that the proposed size of the house is consistent with every approved design in the neighborhood. We only have two variances here. One is the building length. The maximum allowed is 17 meter, and we are proposing 17.5. The second variance is the lot coverage, 35% allowed, and we're proposing 43.7%. If we talk about the two adjacent neighbors, so for example, 268 Queensdale Avenue, they were approved in the past with a lot coverage of 53%, and they have their lot area is approximately the same as 270 Queensdale. Also, their building length is 18.49 meter, and we are proposing only 17.5. If we talk about 272 Queensdale, which recently got approved, their lot coverage approved is 44%, with a building length of 17.29. That being said, 270 Queensdale is the smallest in the two properties, the two adjacent properties. So I believe that the variances we have here is consistent with what approved in the neighborhood, and I have a list of multiple other properties in the neighborhood that got approved recently with much higher coverage and much bigger building length.
So, Mr.
And-
Robot, just one question. When you say it's the smallest property, do you mean the lot size or the house?
No, I mean the proposed size house is the smallest within those two adjacent neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
What I mean by that is, so 268 Queensdale Avenue, their final building or the final building size is 91.58 meters square. Our proposal is 84.3 meters square. The 272 Queensdale, the final approved area is 84.7, and we are proposing 84.3, so we are still smaller than both adjacent neighbors that already have been approved. Building permits have been issued, and 268, the building is already up.
Larry, do you have a question?
Yeah, quick question. I noticed on the drawings that there is a parapet on top of the second story, and is that a rooftop amenity, or is that decorative, or what have you got going?
Just decorative.
Okay.
And that being said, we don't have any variances when it comes to building height or anything like this.
Yeah. All right, do you have anything more, Mr. Robot?
No, I'm open for any questions.
Okay, any further questions, panel? Okay, let us go on to Mr. Helfand.
Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Matthew Helfand. I'm a lawyer at Airden Burles LLP, address 181 Bay Street.
Yeah, can
I'm
we-
here representing the owners of 272 Queensdale, who are the neighbors immediately to the east of the subject property. And on behalf of my clients, I'm requesting that the committee refuse this application. First off, I think it's important for the committee to be completely aware that this is an after-the-fact variance application. The committee may wish to turn to the photos that are attached to my letter submitted to the committee, the letter that's dated August 11th, and through these photos you can see the state of the property at the time of submitting that letter. By way of background and context, I'll let the orchestrator of the screen get to those photos. But by way of background, the applicant purchased the subject lands December 18th, 2020. In April 2021, the applicant had, without a permit, commenced the partial demolition and construction of the house. And on the 21st of April, an order to comply for work without permit was issued to the applicant. It was on that day, on April 21st, the same day as the order to comply, that this application for a variance was filed. And it's quite evident that this application was rushed, and the accuracy of the supporting information cannot be relied on. The committee will note that no zoning certificate was obtained. The site plan is based on an illegible survey from either 1934 or 1974, and in any event is no longer up to date, as you can see by the presence of a large 4 by 3 meter shed on the site plan that clearly doesn't exist today, but did exist at the time of this decades-old survey. It's simply inaccurate. In addition, and critically, the applicant has failed to identify all the variances. The minimum required side yard setback for the subject lands is 0.9 meters, but a second-story addition is proposed with a setback of only 0.36. Clearly, this is a missed variance. The committee should not approve a variance application where it's clear that additional variances are required in order to pull a building permit. But it's also submitted that this application, which, as the committee will see, is met with significant community opposition, should not be deferred simply, but should be refused as the 4 tests are not met. And I will go through briefly the contents of my letter in that respect. First, the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw is not met insofar as there is a community interest in predictable land use planning, and that is violated when someone commences construction on a building without a permit and puts forward variances that are unidentified and based on illegible documents. Additionally, the application should be refused on the basis that the intent of the OP is not maintained, as the second-story rear elevation represents a massing and elevation that is very uncommon, if not entirely unique, in the context of the surrounding neighborhood. This proposed massing and design and elevation in relation to the grade and the garage is not in keeping with the neighborhood character, and these are elements that must be considered in accordance with section 4.1.5 of the official plan. Additionally, the proposed variances are not desirable, and specifically with respect to lot coverage and length, which are standards in place to ensure that there's an appropriate amount of outdoor amenity space being maintained in the front, rear, and side yards, and to regulate the impact of a proposed building on adjacent properties. The plans that are submitted don't clearly identify or demonstrate a purpose for this space that's underneath the stratified second-story addition. As you can see in the plans, there's no stairs even from the back door to the rear amenity space, and there's a door-to-nowhere situation here. This reduces the usability of the rear yard, and we're left with a situation where there's a second-story addition and the impacts of that without a main story use, and the rear yard amenity space is not being preserved and maximized. And so this additional bulk and building length fails to preserve the outdoor usable amenity space and doesn't represent good planning and is not desirable for the appropriate development of the subject lands. For these reasons and the balance of my submissions which are contained in the letter, I would ask that the committee refuse this application.
Panel, any questions? All right, Myrna Baker. Okay, Gwendolyn Henderson.
Gwendolyn Henderson. I am one of the residents at 268 Queensdale, the property immediately to the west of 270 Queensdale. Thank you and good afternoon. First, I'd like to start out by just stating that it was mentioned that the existing property, it was mentioned by the developer that the existing property is a 1-story dwelling that's being converted to a 2-story dwelling. I would like to clarify that. It was a 2-story dwelling that had 2 bedrooms and a bathroom on the upstairs, so it was existing as a 2-story already. Also, before setting out our concerns from 268 Queensdale, we would like to express that we fully support the principal concerns that were brought forward by the residents of 272 Queensdale through their legal counsel, Mr. Halfand, and we will not repeat his concerns because we're in agreement and have been working with residents of 272, but we'll bring forward our additional concerns. It is our submission that the proposed variances do not meet the 4 tests and therefore should be refused. In addition, the proposed variances do not support many other plans and priorities set up by the City of Toronto, which were included in our letter of concern. We also have some photos that were included in our letter of concern for your reference. Our primary concerns are related to the extensive length of the building proposed for the outcome of the development, in that it's a 20-foot extension to achieve 3 bedrooms, as well as the lack of consultation with the neighborhood to respect and reinforce neighborhood character, and the overall lack of planning in the development. It will not add to density, and in haste was overlooked where other variances that Mr. Halpern mentioned, including the planning of space in the rear yard and the door to nowhere. Further, this extension will be visible by 5 feet past the end of our home, which you can see in one of the photos. And since we face south, it will reduce sunlight to our backyard, where we have a vegetable garden and many native plants and trees, which support wildlife, of course, like the endangered monarch butterfly. Specifically with regard to the 4 tests, the proposed development at 270 Queensdale does not fit with the long-term goals and vision of the neighborhood, nor does it respect or reinforce the character. Renovations in the neighborhood have not extended buildings to such length and would compromise the look and feel of the neighborhood, as well as the general activities that take place in neighboring yards, such as gardening, outdoor rest, relaxation, privacy, etc. The proposal does not allow for green space, and in fact it imposes on surrounding green space, threatening neighboring trees, wildlife, and gardens. The change is not desirable, nor is it appropriate for the site and for neighboring lands, for the reasons I just mentioned on green space, etc. But overall, it doesn't support the city's right-sizing housing by increasing density. The home is currently a 3-bedroom home, or it was before it was demolished, and truthfully, they were small bedrooms, but it will result in a 3-bedroom home just with larger bedrooms. The proposal will have significant privacy and shadow impacts on neighboring yards, which will impact the overall use of the properties, again, lacking support for health and wellness, for relaxation, and wildlife and green spaces. To clarify, we are not opposed to the renovation of the house, and in fact, we fully understand the need for additional space, as our own home was a duplicate model of the existing home at 270 Queensdale, and we renovated our home in 2012 when we extended our property by 15 feet in the rear of our yard to right-size our housing to create 4 bedrooms, not 3, for our 6 children and 2 adults. As such, we attempt to propose a mutually agreeable solution, which would also re-inspect and reinforce the character of the neighborhood by contacting the developer, and we outlined this in our letter. However, we never did hear back. One of the proposals we wanted to explore with the owner is to shift the footprint of the 2nd floor, so allow them still the 20-foot extension, but limit the rear extension to 15 feet and shift 5 feet over the existing porch. Similar things have been done. It was done at our own home, and plans of a similar nature were recently approved at 272 Queensdale. This will align the current neighborhood norms and respect and reinforce character, and minimize impact to green space by using the existing footprint over the porch. The homeowner at 270 Queensdale has never consulted with us nor with other neighbors to seek support or discuss any impact concerns. In fact, they've never introduced themselves, making it difficult to consult with them, even when there was cleanup on their property when they began work before having permits ahead of the stop work order being issued. As we mentioned in our home, when we renovated in 2012, we did consult with the neighbors at adjacent properties to seek their support and listen to any points of concern to find mutually acceptable solutions. And a similar approach was taken by our neighbors at 272 Queensdale, who submitted their application to the committee in January and included several letters of support from neighbors. The approach is taken by us to consult and respect and reinforce the neighborhood character and desirability. Finally, in consulting with our current neighbors, we have received strong support for opposition to this development based on the 4 tests. A copy of the petition was submitted, which included the signatures of 40 neighborhoods and ward constituents. The number of years this group has lived in the neighborhood ranges from 1 to 49 years, and such a wide range of support shows that this is not a desirable development and does not fit with the character of the past nor the future, when people who recently moved here have bought to have this neighborhood character. And
Ms. Henderson, your time is up. Could you wrap up, please?
Absolutely. I just want to mention that the current owner, the representative, made it clear that the development is being sought to increase the value of the home for resale purposes and not for their own personal use, which does not support the needs of the owner, nor add to the density of housing in the city of Toronto. And for these reasons, including those submitted by Mr. Helfand, we respectfully request that the committee refuse the variances sought by the applicants, and we thank you for your time and consideration.
Ms. Henderson, you say that you oppose the variance with respect to length. The variance that we have is 17.5 meters, up 0.5 meters from the permitted length. Is that the variance you're objecting to?
Objecting to both in that the use of the extension, rather, because the first floor area is not being used and has that open underspace under the cantilevered extension, it makes it so that in terms of numbers, it looks like it's only going at 17.5, which it is, but it's extending the house by 20 feet in the rear yard. We extended by 15 feet, so we'll end up with an extension of 5 feet in addition to where the rear of our current existing extension ends.
So you're saying that it's a 20-foot extension from the existing, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, thank you, panel. Do you have any questions? All right, thank you. Mr. Roba?
Yes.
Mr. Roba, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, so I'm concerned that the information we're getting is not accurate. I don't have any trouble with your variances. They seem to be relatively minor, but what I'm concerned about is, are those all the variances that you require?
So what we did, we applied for a building permit application first. And after receiving the zoning notes from the zoning examiner with all of the variances, then we applied for the minor variance application. Currently, we have a building permit with a smaller size addition, with only the second floor addition, to allow the construction to start until the minor variance application is approved. So, that being said, there was a zoning review completed. We received zoning notes from zoning examiner with those only two variances. Now, if you allow me for 1 or 2 minutes to comment on some of the items that the neighbors addressed.
Yes, please.
So, again, we have a building permit. There was a building permit application applied for, and all of the variances were identified at that point. Now, in terms of the survey, the land doesn't change, the survey doesn't change, the land size doesn't change, whether it's 20 years ago or 50 years ago. So the survey that was used, the original survey that was used, is currently valid, and it was accepted by the planner, by the building permit department during their review. In terms of that, the house was a 2-story house. The house was not a 2-story house. Attic was converted into a livable space, which keeps the house as still 1-story building. The last thing I have, which again, our proposal is within the same size of the approved proposal to 272 Queensdale and 268. In fact, the variances are less than the two properties. Again, the 272, their building length is 17.29. We are 17.5, but we are 8 inches difference. But again, the lot coverage at the end of the day, the floor space index is less. The building length variance is in the second floor only and not on the main floor. The main floor is still the main size, the original length. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any Larry?
Yeah, I want to circle back to the permitting process, if I might. You had mentioned that you had applied for a building permit, but you also, we understand from Mr. Helfand, there was a stop work order. So had you started, or had your client started doing construction before the building permit was issued?
Only demolition. So there was cleanup and demolition.
Okay, so you did begin before you had a permit.
Well, there is no need for a permit. There is no permit needed for demolition.
Then why did you get a stop works order?
The inspector thought that there was actually work being done inside the house because he never entered the property. So he came, he put that stop work order, but there was no work being done. There was only demolition and cleanup. The work has not started until the building permit was issued.
Yeah.
So the stop work order was rescinded?
Yes.
Any further questions? Peter?
Thanks, and I know this has been brought up a couple times, but there's a concern that you're missing some variances, right? And particularly as laid out in the Aaron Burles letter is the side yard setback variance. That I'm just concerned that you're going to go ahead and either get approval here or not, but then have to come back in a couple months to get an additional variance or two. So can you talk specifically about the side yard setback and why you do not think that you require it?
So again, the process started by applying for a building permit. When we applied for a building permit, the whole application went for a zoning review. After the zoning review was completed, we got back only those two variances: the building length and lot coverage. There was no variances identified by the zoning examiner towards anything else, whether it's a setback, building height, floor space index, neither of those. So the variances were not identified by us, they were identified by the zoning examiner. That's why we don't think there is, unless if the zoning examiner did a mistake, then there is no setback issues.
So are you building on the footprint?
Correct.
Any further questions?
If I may, Mr. Chair, it just strikes me a bit odd and unusual, and maybe you have an answer for this, I'm sure you do. The second floor addition that extends out over presumably a sitting area, a recreation area in the back, it's kind of an odd one where you're not utilizing. If you need additional space, why would that not have been utilized? Is it a design issue or architectural preference? I'm just curious.
So if we extended the main floor, we would have triggered another variance, which is the floor space index or gross floor area. And we were trying to minimize the amount of variances that we will have. Number two, if we can fit the living space in the main floor with the current footprint to minimize the cost of construction as well, so we were able to do that. The addition in the second floor was extended to have proper size bedrooms, which is a problem in this neighborhood. Everybody will design with more bedrooms, but smaller size bedrooms. And this is what our client, the current owner of the building, was trying to avoid. He wanted to have proper size bedrooms.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Do we have any comments? We have a motion.
Mr. Chair, if I may weigh in on this one, based on the fact that there are just two variances before us, all the other issues are not before us and not within our purview in any event. I'm inclined to support the application with the strict adherence to the plans that have been presented to us. I'd like perhaps my colleagues to weigh in as well and see if they have anything additional they might want to add.
I won't, but I wondered on that point, I was thinking the same thing. Could we put a condition that it get built according to the site plan drawings as we have before us? Maybe that would be give us all some comfort. I did, before we move off it, it's not often we see a 40-person sign petition in opposition and a number of neighbors quite concerned about this application. So I just wanted to acknowledge everyone who took the time to participate and write in and have a discussion about this. I agree with you, Zahir. I think the variances themselves, quite frankly, are really quite minor, and we'd be hard pressed to not approve them. But I did want to thank everyone for submitting their comments.
Thank you. All right. So
the motions are here.
Yeah, and just if I can just elaborate on your comment about the reaction that opponents have had. I just wonder if a lot of those may have also been related to the idea that there was perceived activity on that site without presumably a perception of appropriate permissions. Is that something that triggered all the opposition? And it's good that neighbors actually are aware and quite concerned about what changes may or may not happen in the neighborhood. With having said that, if there are no other comments from Peter, I would like to perhaps bring forward a motion to approve the application with the condition that the building adheres to the plans as presented.
thank you. Do we have a seconder? Larry? Yes, all in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 20, 4 Ottawa Street. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2.5-story townhouse dwelling by constructing a front and rear 3rd-story addition. On this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant. We have 24 form letters in support. We have opposition from Ottawa Street, Summerhill Avenue, Shaftesbury Avenue, three form letters in opposition as well. We have support from correspondence in support from 2 Ottawa Street, and opposition from 105 Summerhill and 70 Shaftesbury Avenue, and another from 45 Summerhill Avenue in opposition. So, Mr. De Oliveira.
Hello, my name is Mike De Oliveira. I am the agent on behalf of 4 Ottawa Street, known with replacement design, located at 911 Davenport Road.
Do we have your address, sir?
911 Davenport Road.
All right, thank you. Go ahead with your presentation, because we have, as you could well imagine, opposition.
Certainly. So we are seeking relief to the bylaw to create a 3rd-story rear addition. The variances we are seeking today are in line with similar approvals the committee has made in the past. Our clients have spoken to many of the neighbors in the neighborhood, collected 23 letters of support, and unfortunately there are also a few letters of objection. However, I would like to point out that there has been a redaction of the objection from number 2 Ottawa, which is one of the attached neighbors, who is now in support, as you had mentioned previously. There has also been no objections filed from any city staff on our file. Upon designing the addition, it was important to us and the homeowners that we limit the increase to the overall footprint of the building and variances as much as possible. As you can see, we only have 3 variances. We had initially achieved this by limiting the size of our addition to that of the existing depth and width of the current home. Upon further discussions our client had with her neighbors and reviewing the letters of objection posted, we decided to reduce the scope of work to address the concerns while still giving our client what they needed to ensure this is a home that her family can grow in for the future. The changes include shrinking the size and style of the front dormer to match the existing dormer on the attached neighbor at 2 Ottawa. This effectively makes the front a mirror image of 2 Ottawa, allowing it to fit the existing characteristics of the street and thus making it feel more uniform from the front facade. So they just pulled up the front elevation here. We don't show the neighbor, but if you imagine this as a mirror, it's exactly the same outline. These houses are all kind of following the same suit along this street. Just some of the others don't have dormers, but there are a few here and there. We also revised the plan considerably by over 8 feet from the overall depth of the 3rd floor extension. This puts us only a few feet beyond the addition at 2 Ottawa, while still allowing the homeowner what they needed. This revision also helped to minimize the overall GFA, allowing us to cut it down from the original 1.4 we were asking to only 1.3. Given the existing house is already over at 1.13, this is simply an increase of 0.16. There are also 7 homes within a 100-meter radius of the site that have been approved for greater, as well as 13 Ottawa that was approved for 1.29 FSI on a similar sized lot. Our height variances are also minor, as we're not going any higher than the existing dwelling and are proposing a similar height to the attached neighbor at 2 Ottawa. Many of the letters of objection refer to the fact that people believe the neighborhood should be considered historic. And although it has not been officially designated as one, our client has taken this to heart and throughout the last year has been updating the windows to match more closely with what would have been original to the homes in the area. This, along with the revisions to the dormer, we believe make the front facade a welcome addition to the neighborhood. If you could please bring up page 11 of our Sun study that was submitted. Just hold on a moment while they bring it up. Perfect. Thank you. So, although the neighbors have mentioned concerns about shadowing, we have included a sun study which shows the effects during June, September, and December, a little after sunrise, midday, and just before sunset. These 3D models clearly show the effects of the addition will indeed be quite minimal. Most of the shadows that appear are existing, with the exception being 2 to 3 hours in May to June to the addition of 2 Ottawa, and about 3 hours throughout the day in December to January on the roof of 6 Ottawa, all of which pose no change to the existing shadows within the gardens. So if you just flip through slowly, you'll see the different times of day I was mentioning. Like I said, we have sunrise, midday, which you're looking at now in June. If you just keep scrolling along, you can see a couple of the different time periods I mentioned. The effect of these shadows are even less invasive when you take into account that these 3D models have been done based on an earlier revision, which we had removed 3 feet instead of the 8-foot reduction that we have now in our most latest revisions based on the discussions with neighbors. I would also like to point out that our client has made extensive efforts to reach out to people about the project, knocking on each person's door to discuss with a copy of the plans in hand that would show them if they had any questions. Our client is frankly shocked to have seen a letter from 19 Ottawa who revoked their support, saying they hadn't been given a chance to see the drawings when they had them with them and made every opportunity for them to see it. And since the letters of objection have appeared, we've also made a substantial effort to reach out to each person and talk to them about the drawings, showing them all the revisions ahead of the hearing, be it by email, letters left at their door, or meeting face to face. Now I'd like to open it up to the panel members if they have any questions.
Yeah, Mr. D'Oliveira, I don't know whether I misheard you or not, but I thought you said that the floor space index would now be 1.3 times, because the variance that I have, number 3, says 1.44 times.
Yes, so that's correct. We had submitted a waiver earlier last week with the revised drawings that had some minor changes to our overall variances here. Our heights are relatively the same. We're still proposing the same 9.16 meters in the front and 9.93 meter height in the rear, but we've dropped our overall GFA from the 1.44 that you mentioned to 1.3.
All right, so you've given us a different number, so I just want to be sure we got the right numbers. Number one, the height of the front exterior main wall will be, I think you said 9.16?
Yes.
Okay, we have 9.34, so it's 9.16. Number
Yes.
two, the height of the rear exterior main wall will be 9.93 meters?
Correct.
Okay. And number three, the floor space index will be equal to 1.44 is what we have.
Yeah, as per our waiver, that'll be changed to 1.3, which is currently on screen.
Okay, and the area, how many square meters is it?
That's 150.12 square meters.
Okay, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? Peter?
Yes, thanks. And just to confirm, thank you for confirming the revised variances requested, but I just want to confirm that the actual footprint of the rear addition is that it's on drawing 7 or Z10. So on the one side, it kicks out 8 feet, and the other side it goes about 4.5 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right, any further questions? Okay, let's move on to Graham Lang.
Yes, Mr. Chair, panel members.
Yes.
I'm just going to go to the 4 tests straight away.
Can we
And
have
this is,
your name, sir? Can we have your
yes,
name
Graham.
and your address, please?
Graham Lang at 106 Shaftesbury Avenue.
Thank you. We have
We'll
your
start with number one, that the application is not minor in nature. It's going to set a dangerous precedent that all the buildings that will want to put dormers in the back of their homes facing the west, they go 4 feet 6 beyond what was approved to the neighbor to the south at number 2. The height variances are going to cause shadows and massing in the back. The 1.33 is what they're asking for, is not allowable under the zoning. And the physical character of the streetscape is going to be altered with the dormer casting shadows and interrupting the rhythm and volumes of the roofs on Ottawa. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. De Gregorio?
Chair, might I just interrupt, just ask that last speaker a question? You live on Shaftesbury. Are you directly impacted by this proposal?
No, sir, we are not.
Thank you.
Sorry, Larry, I didn't ask for questions. Mr. and Mrs. De Gregorio?
You might have your mic muted on your end.
Samantha Kives?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you for taking the time to let me speak. My name is Samantha Kivis, and I live at 84 Summerhill Avenue. So my house looks directly onto Ottawa Street, and I'm in support of the changes that they want to make at 4 Ottawa Street. I've seen all 3 plans, and I'm supportive of them all. I fully supported the first one, but understand that the owner has made very significant concessions to to address the neighbor's concern, both on the front dormer and the back dormer of the house. And I think those are very large concessions. My apologies about that. I know from others who have made applications to the committee in this neighborhood, that there's often a lot of objections against densifications, and sometimes it doesn't even matter what concessions the owners make. It just won't make some people in our neighborhood happy. What the owner of Number 4 Ottawa is doing is in line with the neighborhood and what others have done or are currently doing. I know there's another home in Ottawa that has made a full 3rd floor addition on their home. You know, truthfully, I'm fully supportive of the changes because it's the only way that, you know, growing families are going to be able to live in our neighborhood. And, you know, it's how people are going to be able to stay in our neighborhood and make our neighborhood better and more wonderful. And we get to see, you know, kids growing up on the streets. You know, it just reminds me of an article that I saw last week in the Globe and Mail regarding Jane Jacobs and the natural evolution of neighborhoods. And I really feel this is exactly what we're seeing right here. So I'm in support of the changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Okay. Susan Wilson?
Yes?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Just speaking to the AV person first.
Can we have, excuse me, can we have your name and address for the record?
My name is Susan Wilson, and I live at 6 Ottawa Street.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to notify the AV technician I'll be referring to 2 photos for my written submission. The first appears on page 6 in landscape format, and the second is the final page, page 10, in portrait format. Thank you to the committee for the opportunity to address this hearing. I am the next door neighbor at 6 Ottawa Street. I know the Summerhill neighborhood very well as I've lived in it for over 40 years. It is a small, charming, compact area, already very densely developed, with many tiny lots and pretty houses, particularly on Ottawa Street, with its special heritage character. I am grateful to the applicant for presenting revised plans that address some of the concerns of the affected neighbors, and I'm happy with the reduced dormer size in the front that will match the neighboring one at 2 Ottawa Street. However, I do not believe that the proposed reduction in the rear resolves the fundamental issue raised by many neighbors. A precedent would be set for the immediate neighbors who share the tight open space in the rear if an extension larger than one existing at 2 Ottawa Street would be permitted. The current proposal for the rear addition, therefore, is not desirable for the appropriate use of the property from a public interest point of view. It also does not maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan, which calls for new development to respect and reinforce the existing physical character of this lovely neighborhood in terms of prevailing height, massing, scale, and density, in particular the special built form feature of a rear step down from the 3rd to the 2nd floor, which enhances the quality of the neighboring yards on this side of Ottawa Street. If other flat 2nd floor roofs disappear due to comparable additions in houses in the future, soon the tiny existing backyard havens will be lost. Looking at this pastiche photo, you can see on the right, the top, the step forms of the roofs looking north from my roof up Ottawa Street. And you can perhaps make out on the left side of the photo some of the step roofs on Shaftesbury Avenue. My written submission was based on the initial set of plans, so looking at the photo on page 10, you will have to imagine, it's the photo on page 10, the final picture. One more, that's it. Looking at the photo on page 10, you will have to imagine a vertical line drawn roughly in the middle of the parallelogram of the mock-up as the front corner of the addition in the revised plans. The structure to our right of the mock-up is the addition on 2 Ottawa Street. From this photo, you can understand that the modified proposed rear addition is also still not minor in sheer size at 215% permitted floor space, and even less so in terms of impact. The revised proposal will still block or greatly reduce sunlight and daylight to 1 ground floor window, 2 second floor windows, and my dormer on the 3rd floor. My house will be much darker as a result. The addition will loom over my garden and yard, and my privacy will be invaded. In conclusion, I draw your attention to a submission to the committee on August 16th, email correspondence between the applicant and the McDonald's. In it, the latter suggests their solution to creating usable, attractive 3rd floor space on a smaller footprint while maintaining qualities valued by the neighborhood: light, privacy, open space, and the character of the existing built form. I ask you respectfully only to grant approval to this application with the rear addition limited to 3'6" instead of 8, which matches the addition on 2 Ottawa Street. Before concluding, though that was my written remarks, I want to clarify that I was not shown and did not see the plans under discussion before I saw them on the website after the deadline of last week, and I was not shown the first plans before revision ever by the previous owner. Also, the sun study does not show mid-morning, which will have serious impact on my house. Thank you.
Mr. D'Oliveira?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So, just to start off, as the person in support had mentioned, this is an area that's receiving a lot of growth. And this is not the only house on the street that's under construction. There's been many, as I mentioned, 13 Ottawa that just completed a similar 3rd floor addition that was done with 1.29%. With that, our existing home, actually on the 3rd floor, if you look at Z9, has an existing open to below portion. So our addition is actually not as substantial as it would seem from our numbers, because we're simply filling in what would have been open to the 2nd floor to create more floor space area on the 3rd floor, as well as the partial addition to the rear to allow for the space that our client needs on the 3rd floor. So that's just to give you a little bit of a sense of why the number might seem so much higher when we're not actually adding that much space up there. And as I mentioned, the existing floor area, when you exclude that open to below portion, was already over at 1.14. So we're not necessarily adding 2 times the density, as the neighbor had mentioned. We're only adding this 0.16 from the existing condition. So the committee also does not set precedent. The committee reviews each application based on its own merits, and I think this application does meet the 4 tests. It fits quite well with the neighborhood, given our decrease to the front dormer to match number 2. It's keeping within the existing characteristics of the neighborhood, and as I mentioned, the slight change to our GFA is only helping to stay within what would be considered a minor variance here. And in fact, our clients find it a little shocking that the attached neighbor would come back saying that they hadn't seen any plans when, as far as we're aware from our clients, they went to each of these neighbors with the drawings in hand, and they showed them revisions as it happened. Although she may not have seen the latest revision until the day after it was submitted, that was just because we had to meet a strict deadline to get all the revisions in before the hearing timeline for the panel members to have all these drawings for the hearing today. So they were aware of the changes. We have met with multiple neighbors in the neighborhood, including number 2, who, as I mentioned, rescinded their letter of objection to now be in support of us. So there's been a lot of concessions done to get this plan to something that would be more palatable by all the neighbors, unfortunately, we're not able to get total compromise here between everyone, but we've done extensive revisions here to get something that everyone can be appreciative of. So with that, I believe we've met the four tests. There's a lot of other homes in the area that have third floors. You only have to look down the street on the street view here to see there's others such as 22 Ottawa that might have a slightly different roof slope, but has a similar type of addition that goes just about as far as this one does. We're only about 4.5 feet beyond number 2. So these changes are very minimal. And that's only to give into account the ones that are on our side. There's others that are on the opposite end, such as 9 Ottawa, 11 Ottawa, and 1 Ottawa that all have similar types of additions. So with that, I'd like to open it up to the committee if there's any questions I can answer.
Any questions, panel? Okay. Thank you, sir. So any comments, or do we have a motion?
I'll kick
Yes.
it off if
Larry?
that's okay. Similarly, I mean, this application has attracted a great deal of attention, and I think we as a panel just want to acknowledge all the people who have written in and provided comments, and obviously feel very strongly about this one. Having said that, I think the applicant has done quite a good job in at least trying to address, maybe not all, but quite a number of the concerns of the community, and made changes, particularly in the front and the facade, to try and address that. I thought it was a good proposal to mirror the dormer with the adjacent semi. I thought that was a very thing to do, and I think commendable. I think on the surface of it, I mean, this is a very eclectic neighborhood. It's quite an interesting street, but and presumably quite a desirable street. But looking at the actual variances before us, they individually and aggregate are really quite minor relative to the proposal that's before us. So I have no trouble supporting this application.
So is that your motion?
I'm happy to, if anyone wants to do that. Sorry, Zahir, you want to do that?
Oh, no, I was going to, I mistakenly thought you'd put forward a motion because I would have seconded that.
Okay. I will move approval of this application. I don't, Peter, you okay? Yes. I'll move approval. I don't believe there are any conditions, so I'll just move approval.
And I'd like to second that with just with the additional comment to echo what you were saying, Larry, about the attempt by the applicant to match at least the exterior facade. So there's a real attempt to try, and that's an important factor. And I also want to just commend the neighbor who, not immediate neighbor, but the neighbor who spoke in support. I think she makes some very good comments about the changing nature of our city.
All right.
And just to confirm that that's the variances as amended, correct, Larry?
Yes, amended. That's correct. Thank you, Larry. Happy to.
Yes, thank you, Peter.
Yes.
Yep.
So Sabrina, is there a condition or something we're missing?
No, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to make sure it's the approval as amended with the
Yeah.
3 variances that have changed.
Yeah. Peter caught that. Okay, so we have a motion for approval as amended. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Number 20.
approve it!
What was that?
Laurie from the call, man. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Number 21, 6 Dieppe Street, to construct a new 2-story detached dwelling with a rear 1-story deck. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have reports from community planning and urban forestry, and opposition from 30 Furnival Road. representing the owner of 4 Dieppe Street. Hessam Rostami?
Hi, good
Hi.
afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee.
Yes, can we have your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Hessam Rostami, and the address is 675 King Street West, Unit 209.
Okay, so there's opposition, so we need you to give us a presentation, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to be very quick. Thank you for the chance to talk. I'm representing my client Ozzy Sons at 60 Upper Road. You can go through the cover letter that I provided the committee with. The maximum lot coverage allowed in this area is 35%, and we are asking only for 36.41%. It's less than 2% more than allowed. And I've made some examples. I've shown some examples of neighboring, immediate neighborhood. 4 Dieppe just adjacent to us is 50% approved. 8 Dieppe Road is 41.7% approved, just the other side of us. And then if I move forward to variance number 2, which is the maximum floor space index allowed in this area is 0.45 versus proposed 0.65. Again, just adjacent to us, 8 Dieppe Road has 84%, and 4 Dieppe Road has an approval for 74%, and there are others in the immediate neighborhood. I didn't even go as close to Cosburn or Greenwood because they would have been higher. But even in St. Hubert, we have from 70 to 78%. Then for the setbacks and the side yard setbacks, the existing setback on the east side is only 0.19 meters, and on the west side is 0.36 meters. We are conforming to the zoning bylaw on the west side with 0.9, and we are only asking for a slight decrease in the setback on the east side, which is still an improvement to almost 3 times the existing. Reason being is that because of the bedrooms on the upper floor, we just needed that extra width to make them workable. The other 2 variances, number 4 and 5, are truly minor. One of them is 2 meters, whereas we are asking for 2.06 meters, and the other one is the balcony in the back that is only 4.6 meters rather than the 4 meters. In the end, I just wanted to say that we also got some concerns from the vacant house just west of us at 4 Dieppe Road. There's a representative, Mr. William Jono. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. We have seen their uploaded letter, and we have tried to reach out to them, and to the best of our ability, we have tried to answer their concerns. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Jono?
Somebody can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm in reality not in opposition to the application. We are doing our own development next door at 4 Dieppe, which we have a full building permit for. We're just waiting for contractor pricing and a go-ahead on that. Our only concern as good neighbors, we want that development next door to proceed, is a letter that we've exchanged with Mr. Hassan that he referred to, which is just neighborly concerns. Our only hope is to add those 2 letters that are on record as a condition or a one-liner at the bottom of the approval letter from committee to basically entrench our discussions and agreements with Mr. Hassan on behalf of his client, that once we get into construction phases, that nothing falls off the table and is not acted on. It's just a cautious approach from one neighbor to the other. But we're in general support of the applicant.
Well,
the application.
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking for, but it sounds to me like it's a private agreement between the 2 neighbors. and not something doesn't deal with variances.
No, I clearly understand that, and if there's no vehicle by which to add a condition that says, you know, according to these concerns, they'll be dealt with. I just don't want to end up in property standards with our client at a later date. I just want a strong fence between what I think would be two good neighbors. If there's no vehicle by which to do it through committee of adjustment, then we'll just fall back on good cooperation during construction of both our projects.
Yeah, and we don't have anything to do with construction in any event. So,
okay.
So,
Through,
all right, anyways, thank you.
Through you,
Panel,
Mr. Chair, sorry. William, can you just state your address?
I'm sorry, it's William Joannou, Joannou, 30 Furnival Road, Toronto.
Thank you.
All right, sorry I didn't get that. All right, the panel, do you have any questions? All right, so I don't think we have to go back to Mr. Rostami. Wasn't really an objection. So do we have any comments or do we have a motion? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I see this application as being very straightforward. The variances are all well within a reason or a reasonable request. So I'm quite in support of putting forward the support of this motion. I believe there's only one request from condition from, I believe, planning for screening and forestry number 3, I believe. So given planning condition for screening, I'm just bringing up the letter here. Planning requests the condition be imposed. Applicant shall install a privacy screen along the west edge of the rear second floor platform, measuring at least 1.5 meters in height. In addition, forestry number 3, condition number 3. And those would be the conditions that I would add to the acceptance and of the application.
Do we have a seconder? Peter, all in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 22, 24 Mayfield Avenue. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing detached dwelling by constructing a rear one-story addition and a rear third-story addition. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have opposition from 26 and 28 Mayfield. Mr. Barrett.
Good evening, committee members, Mr. Chair. My name is Graham Barrett of 1575 Dundas Street West. I'm the agent for the owner.
All right, Mr. Barrett, could you just hold on 1 second? I neglected to read into the record stuff that just came in. So we also have received 6 form letters in support and correspondence and interest concern from 22 Mayfield Avenue. Okay, Mr. Barrett, you go ahead now.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Apologies for my voice. I'm more than a little under the weather at the moment. So this is a proposal to add a rear and third-story addition and slightly enlarge the ground floor at the rear of the home. In order for this to be possible, 4 minor variances from the zoning bylaw are requested. I've submitted some supporting materials. If those can be popped up on screen, that would be great. This would be a small and suitable improvement to the existing dwelling. Essentially, the second page of my supporting materials is a view of the front of the home, and there are no changes proposed. All work will be located at the rear. If you skip to the next page, you can see a rear view of the home. There will be an addition on that 3rd floor area where the existing deck is, and that ground floor section will be expanded ever so slightly. Take a look at the site plan on the following page. You can see the areas where work will occur circled in red. The extension on the ground floor is projecting less than a meter beyond what is existing. So variance number 1 for rear yard soft landscaping is an existing condition. The small ground floor extension highlighted in red will be located on existing hard surface and will not result in the removal of any soft landscaping. Variance number 2 for maximum permitted building height is also an existing condition. The proposed third-story addition will be built at the same height as existing, simply extending the roof line slightly towards the north or rear. This is best viewed on pages 21 and 22 of this package, which are the proposed east and west elevations. Variance number 3 for maximum permitted height of all rear exterior main walls is required to accommodate the small third-story addition, which will simply allow for a walk-in closet and ensuite for the existing third-floor bedroom. A small balcony with privacy screening is also proposed. This will provide an amenity space for the owners in place of the existing deck. This is visible on the north elevation, page 20. Variance number 4 for floor space index represents a modest increase over that which is existing. The dwelling is currently legal non-complying at 0.75 times the area of the lot. We are proposing 0.82, or an increase of 18.7 meters squared. The proposed extension of the ground floor's north and east walls will project less than 1 meter beyond what is existing, as I mentioned, and result in an increase of only 3.45 meters squared. This will simply allow a little bit of extra space in the family room on the ground floor. The third floor addition will be 15.51 meters squared, and there have been comparable or greater approvals in the past on Mayfield, with the highest being 1.11 times the area of the lot at 25 Mayfield back in 2014 from my research. As you mentioned, 6 letters of support have been submitted. I know the owners have made an effort to speak with their neighbors as best as possible. I also sent out a letter to 12 additional homes on Mayfield and Austin Avenue, offering to chat if there were any questions or concerns, and I haven't heard from any of them. I am aware of the letters of opposition, which has been submitted. I'm happy to address some of those points that were brought up in those if you like. But this will be a small and reasonable addition to the existing dwelling. The footprint is being altered ever so slightly. The majority of the addition on the 3rd floor is within the existing footprint and height, and I'm of the opinion this proposal passes the 4 tests. Thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions you have.
All right. Any questions, panel? Okay. Louise Sullivan.
Hi there, it's Louise Sullivan from 22 Mayfield Ave, and I'm a direct neighbor. I would like to defer further comment to my husband, Jason Hearn.
It's Jason Hearn from 22 Mayfield. We did submit a letter of support and opposition. It's relatively minor concern, but wanted to express to the committee. So thank you for your time. We, as we show in some photos in the letter, though the addition to the rear is minor in nature, it certainly does encroach on the access for both ourselves at 22 as well as the landowners at 24. It's a very tight driveway, and as you enter and exit, there is some close spaces that will need to be navigated. So I'm not sure they've fully evaluated their own access, but certainly it does impact our access. So rather than object, we're proposing that there be a minor change to the plan, a simple change to the angle of the addition such that it will allow for the appropriate access for vehicles. The second point is really around the drainage in the area. So the reduction of soft landscaping, should the 1st floor addition take place, could potentially impact some of the drainage in the area. So certainly, though not called out in the site plan, there's a 4-foot retaining wall, approximately 4-foot retaining wall, constructed of wood just on the west side of the property. And the concern for both ourselves as well as other neighbors is that should there be any change to drainage, it could potentially impact that flow or drainage such that there could be damage to all properties in the area. So wanted to express that concern and document that as part of the committee. Thank you.
So, have you spoken to your neighbor about that change in the adjacent to the driveway?
Yes, we have.
And you haven't?
And they've acknowledged that certainly it is a concern for both. They've even expressed that they would consider not doing that additional addition because of that impact to both ourselves as well as their property.
All right, but there's, so, I'm not sure which variance it might affect that. Perhaps Mr. Barrett, you could help us?
Yes, sir. If you could pull up the site plan again on screen, you can see the area they're talking about, and that would be that very small addition at the rear portion of the home. The owner has considered this and implemented an angled wall there, and that actual wall doesn't come any closer to the property line than the dwelling itself. But if this committee agrees that it's a concern, the ground floor extension can be foregone. This would bring the number for floor space index down to 0.087 or 198.86 meters squared from 0.82. I had the designer calculate that in case we had to address that today. It may also negate the need for variance number 1, although that is an existing condition that may have to be legalized. I'm not entirely sure. And these letters came in on the last day for material submission, so there's minimal time to consider getting revised plans drawn up and no time to get them submitted to staff. So if that is a solution that this committee feels is necessary, then you can amend the application and change the number for floor space index to 0.807, and the owners can forego this ground floor extension, which is quite small and just designed to improve their living room.
Well, are you comfortable with that?
Yes, I've been given instructions that if it is an issue, I'm authorized to pull it off the table at the meeting.
Okay. And Mr. Hearn, are you comfortable with that? Hello? Mr. Hearn, are you still there?
Sorry, we're on. Hello?
Hi.
Mr. Hearn?
Yes, we are comfortable with it. It would be appropriate that that be pulled off the table if that's the reference.
Okay. All right, so, Mr. Barrett, can we go back? I just want to be sure we get the right numbers.
Yes, sir. As I mentioned, I'm a little unclear if this alters variance number 1, so I would like to leave that alone, just on the off chance that it does affect it. I mean, I'm not a zoning examiner, so it's difficult for me to judge that on the fly.
Well,
but
I
variance
don't
number
think
4,
you won't be able to give us the right numbers in any event, right?
Indeed. But variance number 4 can be amended to read the altered detached dwelling will have a floor space index equal to 0.807 times the area of the lot, or 198.86 meters squared.
Okay.
And that would allow my client to build the 3rd floor addition, and that would be fine.
Okay, thank you. Panel, do you have any further questions? All right, so do we have any comments or do we have a motion? Yes, Sahir?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just sorry, no comment, but I think with the changes that the applicant is willing to make, I'm quite comfortable approving the application as amended, to the satisfaction also of both parties actually with regard to their vehicle.
Okay, so do we have a seconder? Peter, all in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 23, 384 Ashdale Avenue. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 1.5-story detached dwelling by constructing a two-story rear addition and a first-story rear deck. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant. We have email correspondence from Transportation Services and a staff report from Urban Forestry, 9 form letters in support. And Mr. Chong?
Good afternoon, committee.
Good afternoon, sir. Could we have your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Matthew Chong at 132 ASHDALE Avenue.
Okay, so I don't think, Mr. Chong, in this case, we're going to need any presentation from you. If you might, just a minute.
Yes, committee, I do have some comments regarding the urban forestry condition.
Yeah.
Looking at the site plan itself, the large tree that is on the neighbor's side of the property line, I think is the one that is of concern. Now, the trunk of that tree is over 8 meters as measured from the outside diameter to the closest part of where our addition is. I think the concern with urban forestry is possibly the canopy that is over top of where we are putting the addition. Now, when forestry talks about the need for an application to injure or remove, does that also include pruning? And in my experience, pruning isn't necessarily injuring the tree. If my client was to prune this tree, we would not have an issue with the crown. And I guess the question is, does the condition for urban forestry for the pruning of the tree constitute injury? And that's the question that, when it comes to the urban forestry condition.
Well, that's not something, I think that's something you have to take up with urban forestry.
And so my request here is to look at this. Of course, if we are subject to that condition, we're fine. But we would ask that given that it's only the canopy and it's a few branches that are going to be overhanging onto our property from the neighboring property, that it's done without condition. But if we are forced to accept the condition, we will. And I just want the committee to take that into consideration.
Yeah, okay. Well, all right, panel, do you have any questions? All right, do we have comments or do we have a motion?
It's fairly straightforward, I think, Chair. I'm happy to move on. I sympathize with the issue about the forestry, but I don't think we're in any position to alter or change what forestry is recommending. So I would put forward a motion to approve subject to forestry condition number 2.
All right, seconder, Sahir, all in favor? All in favor, you have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 24. 256 Atlas Avenue. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear 2-story addition and a rear ground floor deck. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, support from 243 Atlas Avenue. And Parisa Amiri.
Yes. Hi, yes, this is Parisa Amiri. I'm the applicant and the architect on this application.
So can we have your address, Ms. Amiri?
My address is 50 Woodville Avenue, Toronto, Ontario.
Thank you. Yeah, so we need a presentation because we just acquired some opposition.
Okay, I'll go over the application, and just for the record, we have 12 letters of support, and I haven't seen any opposition on the website as of early morning. I don't know when they submitted their...
Somebody's registered to speak to the matter, so we'll have to be patient and hear from that person.
Yeah. This is the two-story existing house, single-family house, which is on the kind of a laneway, but after that there is no other house, and the laneway goes directly to the garage of this house and the other garage. We are proposing to do the back addition, two full-story back addition, and the existing deck, we are removing it, putting the addition, and then another wood deck at the back of the addition. It's gonna be used as a single-family house, and most of the variances that we are requesting is based on the existing situation of the house. Like we are not removing the long portion of the existing house, and we are just matching the existing, the proposed addition to the existing house. And the owner really liked the slope roof, so this one created one variance, which is the overhang side setback. And mostly this is what we are matching with the existing house that we are working with. Like I go over the variances one by one. For the first variance, minimum rear deck needs to be 1.2, whereas we have 90 centimeter, but we are happy to okay that. We are happy to comply with that, and in fact, we sent back the revised site plan, but it hasn't been affected on the variance. So the other one, the platform main bulk attached to the wall, the stuff is great. 1.1 again it's another, like it's for the front porch, which we are simply wanted to use the existing covered porch and alter the existing covered porch, keeping the existing wall of the porch, and like from the south side, and we are shortening from the north side. This variance is because of that. And the third variance, as I explained, is for the eavesdrops, because we are keeping the existing wall of the house, which is very close to the north side property line. And with the overhang of the slope roof, we are having the issue with the overhang eavesdrops. And again, for the last variance, which is the green area of the rear yard, we are just keeping the existing green area. The most part, like the lane is kind of a weird. It goes to the angle. It has 90-degree angle from the garage to the lane. So we have to keep the existing asphalt area for the existing garage as it is. And the rest of the green area we are maintaining, and it's kind of a slope, and it has lots of retaining wall. We are working with the existing grade. So these are the general overview of the house. And if you have any question, I'm happy to answer. And as I told you, like 12 neighbors in the neighborhood, even the immediate one, they supported the application, and we submitted to the committee.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? Okay, Andrew Federal.
Oh, Mr. Chair, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. My name is Andrew Federley. I live at 248 Athens Avenue, which is 2 properties to the south. I've lived at 248 for the last 6 years, and in the entirety of that time, 256 Atlas, the property in question,
has been abandoned and untenanted. Someone comes by once a month to pull a few weeds and to mow the lawn, but that's it. There is evidence of drug and sex trade activity bordering this property, in part because it is abandoned. Along with other neighbors in the area, I received a form letter from Jonathan Chan, who I believe is one of the children involved with the rebuild, and he says, quote, "Our childhood home means a lot to the family, and we have decided to rebuild it for our parents who worked hard to provide for our families since the day they immigrated to Canada," end quote. I totally support the endeavor. I think that's a wonderful idea. However, based on how the home has been treated and abandoned the last 6 years, I question whether this property will be used for the purposes that are being proposed, that is, built for his aging parents. I count 7 bathrooms in the design and question whether this is truly a home being built for parents or for some other purpose. And because I question the premise of the proposal, I am also then questioning who the subsequent tenants will be and how they'll treat the property. All of that said, I welcome the redevelopment of the property as the current site is broken down and abandoned and a site for trash dumping. However, my only personal concern being 2 properties to the south is it's unclear to me from the drawings exactly how much of the proposed design would block light or views or privacy from my property. My final point, I disagree with the reduction of the soft landscaping from the requisite 50 to 28%. With the hardscape of the alleyway to the north, there's already an excess of storm and rainwater runoff, and what is needed is more softscaping, not less. And I question whether this water management has been adequately addressed by the proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions, panel? Ms. Amiri?
To improve the house as, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, to improve the house because, yes, as I measured the existing situation of the house, nobody lived in the house, but it was not like for the garbage dumping. I didn't see that big of a garbage. I saw the worst in the other project that I worked on. And the reason there are many bathrooms in the house because they are a big family. They are planning to live all together. As the mother, like the parents and the kids, they want to live together. And for this purpose, I designed a bedroom and a bathroom on the main level for the parents to be able to live on. And in terms of the view that is worried that is being blocked or the not light, usually the sun comes from the south, not the north. And moreover, 254 is longer than the proposed that we are proposing on this property. So there is no blockage of the light or whatever on his property. And in terms of the grading, we are working with the civil engineer because civil engineer and structural engineer was involved at the beginning of the project with this project, and they are working with the issue of many things that comes up. Like in terms of the green area, it's only we are asking this is some technical that we are looking for, like the rear yard is counting from the building to the rail line, with the big portion of it, which is 6.39 meter of it, it's only blocked with the existing garage. We are not touching that. And like if we want to just like for the green area, we are making it half for proposal that we are proposing, and moreover, we don't have any length issue with this proposal. We are within the limit of the bylaw for the length of the whole house. So if there is any other question, I'm happy to
All right, panel, any questions? All right, thank you.
If I may.
Pardon?
Yes.
Sorry, could I ask a quick question of you?
Yes, yeah.
Sure.
You know, one of my concerns as well was with regard to soft landscaping. And I was just looking at a Google Street Map, and I noticed that the back space in front of the garage is completely paved over. Is that something that the family did prior to wanting to change the property, to develop the property?
Yeah, you are right. If you take a look, if I can have the site plan up on the screen, that I will explain something to you. Can I have it bigger? Okay. There is a dashed line right at the end of the proposed deck. And these are some sort of, like this one, exactly. This is the end of the existing green area. The dashed line toward the right hand, which has the steps, and it's one-story vinyl clad, it's at the end of the existing building, and the rest is a sort of like grass area. And after the dashed line toward the detached garage is all paved area. What I've done is to consider the minimum maneuver for the garage. Can you please show me the detached garage on the site plan? Yes, I put the minimum maneuver for the detached garage, and then I included the rest. I proposed the rest for the soft landscaping. Means I'm improving the site in terms of the site landscape, in terms of the soft landscaping. Currently there is no soft landscaping. Actually, not no, it's very, very minimum soft landscaping in 2 levels with the some sort of retaining wall. And with this proposal, we are proposing like a lot more than existing soft landscaping, which is improving with the engineering and the surface water that the neighbor is worried about.
Thank you.
Thank you. Panel, any further questions? Okay. Can we get a big screen? Yeah, I need to see, no, of the panel members. Yeah. Okay, do we have any comments, or do we have a motion?
I can start here. I was initially a bit concerned. I think it looks like a very large addition to the house, but the variances themselves are quite minor individually and collectively. And the rear yard soft landscaping was a concern, but I thank the applicant for explaining why that is necessary with the jog in the laneway to get access to the garage. I think that's a net improvement over what's there now. With all of that being said, I think this is a reasonable application, and I move to approve with no conditions.
Do we have a seconder? Larry? All in favor? Have your approval. Thank you. Number 25. (15) St. Andrew's Garden. The purpose of this application is to alter the existing 2.5-story detached dwelling by constructing a front and rear second-story addition and a partial third-story addition. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, 5 form letters in support. Ms. Fries?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. We also have a report from Heritage Planning that was received this morning.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
With the following condition: prior to the issuance of a building permit drawings, including plans, elevations, and details, shall be submitted to the satisfaction of the senior manager, Heritage Planning, Urban Design, City Planning, and a heritage permit shall be obtained under the provision of Section 42 of the Ontario Heritage Act.
Thank you. Ms. Fries?
You might have to unmute yourself on your end.
Ms. Fries?
I'm gonna try giving you a call at one of the phone numbers provided. Just give me a moment.
Hello?
Oh.
Hello?
Yeah, Ms. Fries?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know why you can't hear me.
Well, we can hear you now,
You can hear me
but
now.
yeah, but you were echoing.
Yes, I had to unmute.
Okay.
I had to mute everyone else. Anyway, apologize for that. It's Catherine Fries, 186 DuPont Street, Toronto, Ontario, M4V 1 M5R 2E6. So, first of all, we have no problem dealing with the Heritage approvals. We've been working with Heritage. They've reviewed our application, and we have no problem meeting their requirements. We're going to be submitting some window details to them, and understand that our permit is based on their approval.
All right, good. So I don't think we need a presentation from you. Do you have anything you want to say before we go into committee?
No, you're all shaking your head. I think what we're hoping to do is provide you with a much better house than that's there now. We're trying to restore some of its original character, and we're not building outside the existing footprint. And I think it'll be a nice change to the neighborhood.
All right, thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? Comments? Do we have a motion?
I can start. I think we all agree this is a fairly straightforward application. It's a big home on a big lot, quite easily able to accommodate the addition that is being proposed over the garage and a little rounding out on the other side. Good to hear that Heritage is working with the proponent to ensure that the final product is satisfactory to all. So I think it's fairly straightforward and in keeping with the neighborhood, and I'm happy to propose approval or move approval with. I guess I don't have the material from Heritage, so does anyone else have it? So we just refer to it?
Yeah, it's been read into the record, and it's a condition of the any motion. Condition of approval.
So move approval with the condition of meeting the conditions included by Heritage.
All right, do we have a seconder? Peter, all in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Ma'am, sorry. Number 26, 392 Quebec Avenue, purpose of the application to construct a three-story detached dwelling with an integral garage, a rear ground floor deck, a rear basement walkout, a second-story rear balcony, and a rear roof terrace. With this application, we have materials submitted by the applicant and one form letter in support. Mr. Galbraith?
Hello again.
Hello. Again, so just for the record, can we have your name and your address again?
Sean Galbraith, planner here on behalf of the application, 1 Young Street, Suite 1801.
Okay, I don't think we need your presentation. Pat, do you have anything to say, Mr. Galbraith, before I go to the panel?
Just that we also have the support of the neighbor to the north, but the letter was just provided to me this morning, and so it was just too late to submit. But we've been working with them, and they're happy with the design that we've shifted away from their house.
Okay. Okay, panel, do you have any questions or comments, or? Do we have a motion? Yes, Peter?
I'm happy to bring a motion. I think this is a sensitive application that's in line with more recent projects on the street. I wasn't a huge fan of the integral garage portion of it, but I think there are other examples in the immediate area, and that's not a variance that's being requested. Anyway, so I move to approve the application with no conditions.
All right, seconder? Say here, all in favor? Okay, Mr. Galbraith, you have your approval, you have a hat trick. Number 27, 680 Vaughan Road. Purpose of this application is to alter the existing one-story detached dwelling by constructing a full two-story addition, a rear ground floor deck, a rear basement walkout, and converting the basement into a secondary suite. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicants, a 7-signature petition in support from people on Vaughan Road. Mr. Gatti?
Good evening. Yes, Tony Gaddy with Gaddy Brothers Consulting and Design Limited, address 12 Theodore Drive, Mississauga. I'm the agent for the homeowner.
Okay, I don't think we need a presentation, Mr. Gaddy. Do you have anything you want to say before we take it into committee?
No, just that we seek approval from the committee and that our application meets the 4 tests as outlined in the Planning Act.
All right, thank you. Panel, any questions? All right, any comments? Do we have a motion? Sahir?
I'll move on. Recommend that we approve this application as is, Mr. Chair, with no conditions attached. I think it makes good use of the property and certainly will increase the availability of accommodation.
All right, thank you. We have a seconder. Peter, thank you. All in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. Number 28, 103 McPherson Avenue. Purpose of the application to alter the existing 3-story semi-detached dwelling by enclosing the rear porch, enlarging the front dormer and bay window, and replacing the rear carport with a detached garage. With this application, we have material submitted by the applicant, 11 form letters in support and opposition from 121, 118, and 105 McPherson Avenue. Ms. Levy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Amanda Levy, and my address is 79 Balmoral Avenue, Toronto, Ontario.
Right. We're going to need a presentation from you because we have some opposition.
Okay, sure. I am the architect agent for 103 McPherson Avenue, and I am representing the owners who have lived in the house for 12 years and have been saving to do an addition and renovation. The owners are requesting variances so that they can provide a basement play area for their 2 young sons to hang out and provide more usable space throughout the rest of their house. We are asking for 3 minor variances, and if you could go to the 5 slides that I've provided that I would like to speak to explain what we're asking for. Thank you. So if you go to the first slide, it shows images of the front and the exterior of the house. You could keep one up from that. It shows pictures of the front and the exterior. There should be a total of 5 slides.
8.
In the presentation material,
Sorry, this is what's marked as a presentation materials. Is it somewhere in this file?
okay, it wasn't, it's all showing as, yeah, go to the very, there's a slide that shows a colored renderings of the front and the back of the house and explains that there, right there, that one. Perfect, thank you. So what we have is we have a semi-detached home that's on a long, narrow lot. And so our existing FSI is already at 0.94. What we are requesting is to fill in that porch area at the rear of the house, which already has a pop out over it. So we would be enclosing that space and the adjoining sliver of space up to where the property line is. So we'd be increasing our FSI from 0.94 to 1.01. In terms of the next 2 slides, slides 2 and slides 3, we have a series of precedent studies where we went around the neighborhood looking at projects that had done, back down, next one, that one, yes. And we went around the neighborhood looking for examples where bay windows and dormers had been altered over the year to look for inspiration. And as you can see, over the decades, there's different styles and variations of these combinations. And the ones that the client and I liked the most was 97 Balmoral, which is this one right here. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to increase the head height of our existing dormer so that it was more usable space, and we wanted to bring it up to current building codes and energy efficiency levels. So our house was altered over the years, and we have like one fixed big window in the dormer, which is non-operable, so we can't open it to get a breeze, and it gets condensation in the winter. So we wanted to replace the windows, and we want to have thicker walls so that we can insulate the walls, and we want to insulate the ceiling, which is why we increased the ceiling height of the dormer so that we can get more insulation into that space. As mentioned to you, the owners have lived in this neighborhood for 12 years and in this house for 12, so it was very important to them that they got the support of their neighbors. If we go back to the slide that shows the green dots, what they did is they talked to the neighbors adjoining them and the neighbors that were across the street and would be looking back at their house. We got 10 letters of support, and we've since have had several verbal nods of approval for our project, but we missed the cutoff date of last Wednesday to submit those letters of support. We reached out to meet with our neighbors starting back in May. We reached next door to 101 McPherson and 105 McPherson. 101 supports the project. I had a 45-minute meeting with the owner at 105 McPherson Avenue, and he made it clear that he was not in support of any project of any scale for anyone at 103 McPherson. However, I did listen to his concerns regarding privacy and light issues, and as a result of that, we revised the dormer window. So originally it had windows that would have been on the west and east side of the dormer bay window, and we removed those windows to address his issue of privacy. And we also removed a roof overhang that was going to be on the 3rd floor at the deck at the rear of the house because he was concerned it would block light into his windows on the 3rd floor. So we revised the drawings, we resubmitted it for the zoning notice and for committee of adjustment.
Ms. Levy, Ms. Levy, your time is up, so if you could wrap up.
Sure. So, as mentioned, the neighbors wanted the support of the owners wanted the support of their neighbors, so we reached out and we made revisions to the dormer window based on the owner at 105 McPherson. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Ms. Moore?
No, everything I want to say I said in my letter. I'd just be repeating myself.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Levy?
Yes.
Have you read
Yes.
Ms. Moore's letter?
I did. I read all 3 of the letters that were submitted to the Committee of Adjustment portal, and I understand that she's concerned about the aesthetics of the street for McPherson Avenue, and she specifically refers to red brick porches and dormers. So I'd like to point out that, we are keeping the red brick. We're not painting it another color such as black like some people have done. There is an existing porch, and that porch will remain, and there is an existing dormer. So I understand that the issues from both from Barb Moore and also the issues from, I believe it's 121 McPherson, have to do with the aesthetics of the dormer.
Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions? Do we have any comments? Do we have a motion? Yes, Peter.
Yeah, I'm happy to bring a motion. I think this is a very tasteful and modest addition that's being proposed, and I think some of the opposition that we've read in the letters, well, most of it hasn't been about massing, but it's been about character and modernity versus tradition, and we come across that often. But I think this is done in a sensitive way, and it shows a kind of evolution of style while maintaining kind of sensitivity with the massing and the kind of structures along the street. So I think this is a positive application that will have no negative impacts on the neighbors. So I move for approval with no conditions.
Okay, yes, sit here.
I'd like to second that motion, Mr. Chair. I think it's quite an appropriate application.
What's the name? Well, okay. Just hang on, because we have somebody on the line. I don't know who it is or what their thing is, but they're with respect to 103 McPherson, so let's hear who it is.
Hi, can you please state your name and if you're here to speak for the application? You might be muted.
Might also be the owner.
We live at 103. I'm not sure if you're referring to us. Sorry. It's us again.
Oh, okay.
You're here before.
Okay.
We're just eager.
All right.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, I got caught up in that. Did you make a motion, Larry?
I think Peter did.
I made a motion.
Oh, Peter made a motion.
Motion for
Okay.
approval, and Zahir seconded.
Okay, all in favor? Have your approval, thank you. Number 29, 8 Dunloe Road. Purpose of this application to alter the existing 3-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear 3-story addition. With this application, materials submitted by the applicant, email correspondence from planning, and 3 form letters in support. Mr. Lang?
Hello, Matthew Lang from 1133 Young Street, agent for the applicant.
All right, thank you, sir. I don't believe we're going to need to hear a presentation from you. Do you have any comments to make before I take it into committee?
No, I'd just like to thank city staff for the review and processing of our application. They were very efficient, professional, and allowed us to put forward the best application that we could. So just like to say thank you.
Thank you. Panel, do you have any questions? Do we have comments? Do we have a motion? Yes, here.
Move, Mr. Chairman, that we accept the proposal, the application, with no conditions attached.
All right, seconder. Peter, all in favor? Have your approval, sir. Thank you. We adjourn at 6:40 p.m.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Good night.
Okay, good night.
Nice to meet you, Zaire.
We'll meet again, Peter. Take care.
See you, Larry.
Bye, Larry.
See you, Larry. Bye, guys. Thanks,
Bye.
staff.